It sounds like Nazi Germany. Families living in fear of a loud knock on the door in the early morning, police bursting in and taking away their children. But it's not Nazi Germany. It's today's Germany. This is the abduction of 7-year-old Dan Schultz, recorded on video by his family. On the tape, Dan is crying and begging to stay with his family. Dan was taken by Germany's notorious child welfare agency, the Jugendamt. The official reason Dan was taken was that he wasn't in school, even though he'd been homeschooled and then began private school. The Jugendamt, which dominates Germany's troubled family court system, takes children when it wants, from perfectly normal families. The Jugendamt's well-documented treatment of families, especially homeschoolers, has now become an international issue. In January, the Romaikas, a German homeschool family, were granted political asylum in the U.S. after an immigration judge ruled that Germany and the Jugendamt had violated their human rights. Mike Donnelly of the Homeschool Legal Defense Association was one of the attorneys for the Romaikas.
The judge said that this policy was repellent to everything that we as Americans believed. He felt that these were basic human rights. These were the kinds of rights that no country had a right to deny their people.
Germany's Jugendamt, or Child Welfare Agency, undoubtedly does some good work somewhere, but it has a worldwide reputation now as a ruthless organization that abducts children from good families and wrecks homes.
My experiences with the Jugendamt are terrible. They destroy families, they torture people, and they make money out of it.
Dan's mother, Heidi Schultz, remembers the morning he was taken.
He was screaming so much and he held me tight and I could do anything. Nothing.
After Dan was taken, Heidi's contact with him was restricted to sporadic visits and phone calls.
He said again and again, "Mama, help me, Mama. Why you don't visit me?" And I said, "I don't know where you are."
After 3 years of fighting and praying for the return of her son, a judge finally ordered Dan Schultz returned home. He was kept at an orphanage where Heidi says he was beaten up by other kids, poorly fed, ill-clothed, and not educated for the first year and a half.
It was just terrible. At first I thought I was just going to the doctors because I had a sore throat or something, but it wasn't like that. Yeah, they told me that I wasn't doing well, I wasn't doing great, and that my mother was sick.
Opponents of the Jugendamt say the system amounts to a government child trafficking network, in which about 80 kids per day are seized from parents and funneled to children's homes and psychiatric care, with the overflow going into foster homes. The system needs to continually take in more children to keep functioning.
There is a system of persons, of social workers, of teachers, of psychotherapists, who live on children being taken out of the family.
We call it industry.
Carola Storm-Knirsch is a psychologist who has worked for the Jugendamt on several cases, but she broke with the Jugendamt over the Schultz case, which she said was totally wrong.
There are homes with empty beds and they need children. And they call the Jugendamt and ask, "Hello, do you have a child for us?"
Records show Dan brought in $8,000 a month for the state home where he was kept. And while we were there, Heidi got a bill in the mail from the Jugendamt for what was done to her family.
1,600 euros. They take your child and they take your money.
The local Jugendamt office is right across the street from the Schultzes, so we asked for an interview. They wouldn't discuss the case, but said the Jugendamt acted in a humane and correct way and legally. The German embassy in Washington told us flatly that the Jugendamt does not need to be reformed. When we asked them, does Germany adhere to the European Convention on Human Rights in respect to the rights of parents, they answered yes. Although a German homeschool legal expert insists that Germany's Supreme Court has said that the European Convention is not binding on Germany. In her fight for her son, Heidi tried to get the ear of German politicians, like this event with the former head of the European Parliament. But watch the reaction from the former head of Germany's Green Party when someone suggested the Jugendamt should be considered a criminal organization.
Das ist dummes, dummdreistes, radikales Geschwätz. Ich weiß es, das ist dummdreistes, radikales Geschwätz.
Heidi Schultz has already raised 2 exceptional daughters. Venona has studied in Japan and Tashina in America. But the Jugendamt suspects that Heidi has psychological problems, and they've begun a new process which could end in Dan being taken away again. Dan told us there's nothing wrong with his mother.
He thinks the home is sick, not his mother.
The psychologist Storm Knirsch agrees, saying the Schultz family is healthy. But she thinks some members of Germany's Jugendamt and family court system could use therapy.
These people are sick. These people are sick.
Heidi, who was raised in communist East Germany, says that in many ways communism felt safer than the new Germany.
They are so mighty, they have all power, and you are nobody.
The German establishment doesn't like to be reminded that the Jugendamt was started by Adolf Hitler. Storm Knirsch adds, Adolf Hitler really did his work well. Mike Donnelly says more German families are seeking in the United States. Meanwhile, in Berlin, Heidi says she feels defenseless as she waits for the Jugendamt to decide whether she will keep her son. Dale Hurd, CBN News, Berlin.